Welcome back, everybody. Um, and this is a discussion we wanted to have about the effective use of LinkedIn and social media. I noticed as we started the call today at 11 that we have a lot of folks on here who are board members or partners at their firms. So obviously, many of us have been fortunate enough to have some success in building some business, but I think that this will be a nice refresher or maybe perhaps some education about a new avenue through which you can continue to build your career and potential sources of business down the road and continue to enhance your reputations as thought leaders in your respective fields. So a little bit about me to begin with. Again, my name is Dan Cortez. I'm a partner at Foley, Baron Metzger and Yipe in Livonia with Randy. The vast majority of my practice is spent doing medical malpractice defense work. But part of what got me into using LinkedIn was the fact that I also do a niche area of law involving constitutional law and land use matters. And it's kind of developed into a national practice around the country. So I'm also publish on LinkedIn about those topics as well as on the firm website. And I've been a board member for the MBTC for a couple of years now. I know there's some newer faces on the call today. I can't recommend you all remaining members and continuing to look for opportunities to take on leadership roles in this organization. As we talked about earlier, it really is fantastic. A little bit about me, as I mentioned earlier, I had a prior career as a journalist. Started at a small paper in northern Indiana in Fort Wayne, and then moved on to the Detroit Free Press. I had some pretty cool experiences, covered Super Bowl and All-Star games and the war on terror. I went to Afghanistan in 2004 as part of my work as a reporter. So it was a unique experience, and I like to think that in some ways it kind of prepared me to be a better lawyer. So that's kind of my background and where I kind of approach this. So the goal today is to talk a little bit about LinkedIn and social media and how to use it effectively. We all are aware of LinkedIn. Many of us, I know I've seen some of your profiles, are on LinkedIn. But perhaps we aren't using it as often as we could, or maybe we should. I think that LinkedIn has a reputation as being one that kind of gets overlooked. We kind of go right away to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter when we hear the phrase social media. But LinkedIn is out there, and it's really the one for those of us who are professionals to be on and communicating on and posting on in order to look for opportunities that might be out there for us that we might otherwise not know about. This slide might look familiar to Randy because he first introduced it to me 5 or 6 years ago. When we first start our careers, we really are looking for jobs. We are fresh out of law school. We have a massive amount of law school debt, some of us anyway, and we are looking to get a toehold into an industry. So we are looking for a job. And ideally, and for most of us on this call, I think, that job turns into a career at some point. And there's a distinction and a difference. A career is something that we're going to do a long time, forever, and it's going to be a significant part of our life. And we're going to make every effort to contribute to building that over a span of decades. It's an evolution from simply filling a timesheet and collecting a paycheck to really having a holistic view of this task as being something that we're going to do for the next couple of decades. As part and parcel of that, I'm not going to zoom in on these. I'm sure all of you have probably seen some version of this over the years. One of these time management matrices, I think I've seen most often at my firm, the one in the bottom right corner. Part and parcel of building a career is investing the time and the effort to create a reputation for yourself. Make the effort to be speaking at or in front of organizations, to be writing for organizations, so that you have a place in the specific arena of law, and that eventually not only potential clients, but perhaps even peers will come to see you as a thought leader in that particular area of law. And perhaps that leads to future business down the road. We all have this kind of task where most of us are litigators. So we have deadlines we have to deal with every single day. And so we have to find a way to manage our time such that we are carving out time to make these efforts to become a thought leader and try to find ways to position ourselves at the forefront of our industry. I've gotten into a habit of Monday mornings, I've got to spend 30 to 45 minutes doing something, whether it's LinkedIn, writing an article about obscure constitutional law issues that intrigue me. We have to make the time and effort to do so. That can come in many forms. We're going to talk today about LinkedIn, so messaging, content development, putting it out there for others to consume and identify us. And sometimes we're talking about very crowded fields, or we're talking about not so crowded fields, but hard to find. Our job is to find out what we need to do, how we need to do it, and where we should be doing it, so that we can become thought leaders with the ultimate goal of being business development. Social media is just one of those ways that we can do that. It's not an end-all be-all. LinkedIn is not the only way to do this, but I've really, over the last 18 months, have kind of gone on this LinkedIn road, and I've seen some successes, and I would like to kind of share with the group a couple of tricks in particular that might help drive eyeballs to your content, and more connections come from that, and potentially more business down the road in your specific area. So I was going to start with a little bit about LinkedIn, because I know I didn't know that much about it. I was not on it very often. And when the notion was first pitched to me, I thought, I don't know, I'm 41 years old. I'm never on LinkedIn. I'm usually on, my wife will tell you, I'm usually on Twitter too often. She's on Instagram too often. And everybody's phasing away from Facebook for various reasons. But LinkedIn is the business one, the professional one. And I wanted to give you some information about LinkedIn, because these numbers, these bits of information kind of surprised me. In particular, a few of these, 1 out of 3 professionals on the planet are on LinkedIn in some capacity. There's a lot of professionals on here. Now, their profiles might not be completed. They might not be all the way done as you'll want yours to be if you're going to use LinkedIn. But these folks are out there and they are on here. And the one of this that caught me by surprise was the notion that 41% of these LinkedIn visits are on mobile. So I think that we need to, all of us can and should start to see LinkedIn as, just as you would see Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, an app that's on your phone that people are accessing on their phone, as opposed to maybe a staid website folks consult once every other month. Yes, there are folks that are out there, but many of them are simply scrolling through the app on their phone. Who's on there? I think this age breakdown is very relevant. Using round numbers, 4 to 5 users are in the prime working years of their lives, 25 to 55 years old. Decision makers, folks who are involved in assigning work, who are perhaps looking for folks to help them with things. That's who is out there. And so these are professional folks as well. So it's a wide swath of people that are on this app with regularity. As far as business to business, LinkedIn leads the way. It's the most commonly used one out of all of these social media sites. So there is a lot of potential value here, and we should not be overlooking that, even if it's not the usual social media site we think of. For those who aren't super familiar with LinkedIn, a lot of the same attributes here that you would find on the other sites. We like things, we comment on them, we share them, we create connections and therefore networks, kind of like your Facebook, kind of like your Instagram and things like that. Nothing super unique. So I was going to begin with the notion of the profile. Many of us have profiles already who are on this call. I've seen many people who are on this call have their profiles already. I was going to give a few pointers about that before we talk about the writing. And that's because you don't want to overlook the importance of this. Believe it or not, I probably spent a total of 2 or 3 hours crafting the very specific SEO-friendly terminology that's used in my kind of byline underneath my name on my profile. You need to ask yourself, how do you want to be perceived? What kind of thought leader, what topic area do you want to be talking about, thinking about, and what kind of people do you want to have seeking you out? So I put in this specific one that I do medical malpractice work, obviously, but I'm also trying to develop a practice focused on constitutional law matters and land use around the country as well. So spend the time, don't overlook this. You want to have the right people searching for you, and a good way to do that is by having the right terminology in your description, as well, of course, as an appropriate professional photo. Right underneath that is going to be an about section about you. Again, you're going to want to make an effort here to spend some time and craft what it is you want people to know about you from the outset when they are coming across your profile. What have you done? What are you looking to do? And how can you help those who might be in need of your services? Again, this can be something where you're going to have to spend some time. And I always think to myself that this is something I'm going to come back to occasionally to sharpen it, perhaps change some of the content, alter it some way to make it even more effective. And then I think it's nice to have a completed experience section so folks know where you've been in the past as well as in the future. So the main crux I want to talk about was writing for LinkedIn today. I think it's a unique way of writing that some of us who are litigators who are writing motions all the time, or if we're doing appellate work and we're writing briefs all the time, this is different than that. This is a much more conversational thing that all of us will get better at doing as we go. But I wanted to throw these jarring stats at you that hopefully any of us who write a lot are aware of, in particular, that average attention span. Guys, we got 8 seconds. That's how long the average American attention span is going to be for us. So we need to be effectively communicating right away in an engaging manner that's going to keep folks with us long enough so they can get further down into our post and actually get into what we're trying to convey. All of us have the ability to do this because we are legal writers. We can write concisely. It's just that with LinkedIn, the nature of a social media site inherently is that folks are constantly scrolling through, especially on the application on their phones. So we need to do an even better job of being engaging very quickly so that we can get them to the content that we want. I have this poster right here on my wall. My wife got it for me because she knows I love this expression so much. We need to spend the time to get good at writing very concisely for LinkedIn because we have a limited amount of time to grab people's attention. And that's why I think it's conversational is the word that I want you to walk away from this presentation having in mind. There's no citations. We try to avoid legalese. We're writing for folks who might not be lawyers. Yes, they might be in our industry tangentially, but even if perhaps they're individuals who might become clients who are consuming our content because they're interested in this area or they might have a matter in this area. So you do your best to try to drop all legalese, any pretense of writing for other lawyers or judges or anything like that. Here's an example I have from last summer. It's a very obscure land use topic that the Supreme Court had touched on. I did a post to LinkedIn about this opinion, and in particular, a concurring opinion from Justice Gorsuch. And as you can see in how I've framed this, this is not a legal brief. There are no citations. There are no ids with a period afterward in italics. This is something that I want somebody to engage with because this is very thick content that has to do with constitutional law and religious land use. So I try to avoid too many legal terms. I use the acronym RLUIPA because I've used it in prior posts, but I'm expressing not confusion, but curiosity just as much as my reader might have. What just happened with this opinion and why did it happen? Because again, we're trying to quickly and concisely engage the reader in a very tough topic to wrap their heads around. And I can say that because I know I sometimes struggle to wrap my head around some of these Supreme Court opinions. This is a much more conversational approach than we're going to do in a brief, of course, but it's something that you will get better at doing the more you do it. Your goal should be 200 to 250 words or less. LinkedIn will give you a limit, I believe, after probably 250 words. So we are going to be concise. A little trick that I've learned over the past year and a half, it's probably best to sit down when you have an hour and a half and write out 3 of these, as opposed to whenever you want to post, sitting down and trying to write in that LinkedIn concise way of writing. It's certainly more conversational, like we said, as what you're used to on a day-to-day basis. So it might be more time effective if you do more than one at once. So besides that, the biggest trick I wanted to talk about for folks is the notion of a direct post, and something Madeline was talking about a little while ago. Many of us have firms that have a LinkedIn page. I know Foley, Bear, Metzger, and Yipe does. And they do a nice job of saying, hey, on this post, for example, there's this article that one of our attorneys, Dan Cortez, wrote about the Supreme Court decision on the vaccine mandates. You should come check out this article, which we have on our website at fbmjlaw.com. That's great. That's fine. That's good advertising of the fact that we do that. And I have a few thumbs up on this article, and the link is going to send you away from linkedin.com, and it's going to send you to fbmjlaw.com. Here's another example. We have 2 paragraphs. That's great. There's a link at the bottom of this post. It's going to send you to fbmjlaw.com so you can read the entire article. I will tell you guys right now, LinkedIn is fine with this, but they do not love this, nor are they going to prioritize this. And I think many of you can probably infer the reason why. Like any other social media app, LinkedIn doesn't want you to go away. They do not want you to go to fbmjlaw.com or plunkecooney.com. They want you to stay on linkedin.com. So they are, whether it's an algorithm or some other method, they are not going to be as thrilled about this content as they're going to be about a direct post. When you pull up the application and you make a post directly onto LinkedIn and it's contained within LinkedIn. So here is an example of one that I did on the first Monday of this year when it's gray and snowy out. And I picked a topic of a general human topic that we can all relate to. So I said, here are my New Year's Day resolutions, which I am sure to fail, but I'm going to try to do over the next year. And as an added bonus, I threw in a picture of my 2-year-old giving me a kiss on the forehead before I went on a court call that morning. This is the most views I've ever gotten, 2,400 views in the span of 2 or 3 weeks, 40 likes, all these comments. It's gonna get more engagement for 2 reasons. A, because I did a direct post onto LinkedIn. Well, 3 reasons. B, because I had my adorable 2-year-old daughter in the picture. But 3, everybody can relate to New Year's resolutions, whether we were mocking them on January 3rd or whether we were all struggling to start complying with them. So the thing that works here is that it's a topic that everybody can relate to, and it's a post directly onto LinkedIn. This is good engagement. You don't have to make every post you write about the intricacies of contract law. People aren't here for all that. Throw in the occasional human interest piece, throw in the occasional picture, which LinkedIn loves original content from you. These are ways to develop our personalities on these posts to show that we're more complete human beings other than just litigators interested in our own topic areas. This is where you get a lot of views, and then perhaps that leads to more views the next time you get mired in a big post about a nuance of contract law or medical malpractice law. This is a good example of that. 2 weeks later, after the nice post including a picture of my daughter and New Year's resolutions, I'm back posting about the Supreme Court and their opinions that came out on vaccine mandates. A tough topic to digest, but we're still getting 400 views as opposed to perhaps 150 when my firm posted sending the reader to the article on our firm website. So you see the value of direct posts to the site, as well as the value of easily relatable topics. They're going to drive more eyeballs. I'll give you this piece of advice though. Don't abandon the fact that you're going to write about these posts, and don't get discouraged by the fact that on this one, for example, I just had 2,400 views on an easy relatable post. And now I'm down to 400 when I'm getting into the muck of Supreme Court law and vaccine mandates. But I would venture to guess that these 400 views are coming from folks who are genuinely interested in this topic. And those might be the ones who are more inclined to be reaching out to me and saying, hey, I might have a matter in South Carolina that might be of interest to you that you could help me with. Some of these posts have led to calls from all over the country, California, South Carolina, Nevada. I've gotten a lot of incoming calls as a result of some of these posts. Again, the why on this, LinkedIn wants you on their websites as you configure, as opposed to venturing off into other sites. A couple other topics besides the pure writing content for LinkedIn. We're going to want to beef up our connection numbers. Mine probably needs to be about 500. There are very prominent, frequent posting lawyers around the country that you can connect with, and that will help lead to expanded networks. It makes sense. The more folks that are seeing your posts, obviously, the better. Another way to draw attention to your posts is to become a member of some of the LinkedIn groups that are relevant to your area of law. Here's an example of some of the groups that I pulled from. They do a nice job of breaking them down by state bar, by where you went to law school, by where you went to undergrad, or by topic area. There's a land use section that I've become a part of. There's litigation sections, medical malpractice litigation sections, risk management sections. So it's a matter of spending some time searching the group section and seeing what's out there for you. My overall message in this, along with the tricks we've talked about, is that this is a thing that's going to take time. I've heard the 1 in a million stories of folks getting inundated with calls, and that's great, but I'm not going to tell you that's what you should expect. It's something along the lines of building up a reputation and building a catalog of articles and posts that will repeatedly draw eyeballs to you, to the point that after a while, hopefully some things happen and some calls start coming in. But this is going to be the kind of thing that's going to pay off more so over time as opposed to immediately. So I see my time is low, so I'm going to wrap that up. LinkedIn is just a part of this overall concept of spending the time outside of those billable hours to develop your job into a career. And part of that is putting yourself in a position to be a leader in your industry, your specific area of law, and to become a place where clients might turn to you if they find you online. And not only just clients, but also other practitioners who might see you as somebody who is posting on these topics, knows what they're talking about, and is a trusted, reliable source who eventually might be somebody you throw some work to. If you took anything out of the writing concept, post concisely, conversationally, directly to the LinkedIn site, as opposed to trying to drag folks to your article. I can assure you, you're going to get more engagement when you do direct post to LinkedIn site. And finally, it's just going to be something that you got to stick with. That's something that many of you on this call have learned over the years. I know I've learned it over the years, and it's something that usually will bear fruit down the road the longer you stick with it. I think we have a minute or two, John, for questions, because I know it's 12:30. If anybody has any questions or comments or wanted to share any positive experiences they've had using LinkedIn or something similar.
So Dan,
yeah, let's go ahead and take questions now. We can spare a few minutes. Anyone have any questions for Dan?
Yeah, this is Madeline. I do the posting and my staff for the MDTC LinkedIn platform. They have a page and a group. And what we do is we try to post something once or twice, 3 times a month. And we promote all of the leaders, all of the speakers, award recipients. We'd like to do more with the quarterly, but MDTC has a group and a page. And I'm not sure which one we should be focusing on. Should we continue with both of them or abandon one and stick with the other? I'm just a little confused there. And what yeah, go ahead.
No, that's an interesting question. I think that I don't like the notion of abandoning either one. I think the group is an effective way to get people together. But as far as the one you're going to prioritize, I think you want to prioritize the entities page. It was on my list of things to talk about, but I overlooked it. I really like the way MDTC picks out folks to highlight for whatever it is they do to help the organization out. I think that's an effective way to promote individuals who make contributions to the entity. As a way to enhance that, yeah, the quarterly and the job Mike Cook does is phenomenal. If there's a way to be posting some things within the LinkedIn environment, great. I think we should be doing that and finding an effective way to occasionally be sending them to any online things we have. But the more we can post directly, the better, especially through the entity page.
Okay, thank you.
This is not a question either, but we did a using LinkedIn webinar last year, I believe. Madeline, is that right? And I think it's posted on our YouTube.
That's correct, yes.
And it echoes, it's a slightly different focus from Dan's, but they blend together really well. Our presenter there really emphasized personal postings. And in her intro, describing herself, I can't remember specifically what she put in, the mother of, several young girls, something like that. So she focused on that. But she also had some very, I think, good suggestions that I really compliment with what Dan said. And so go look at that for additional LinkedIn information. And I was recently at a training or a seminar with PR people who said, if you're going to do any social media as attorneys, it's LinkedIn, not Facebook, not Twitter, do LinkedIn. They all viewed it as an absolute no-brainer.
If I can echo a couple of things, I think both points are really well taken. I think there's so much value in doing the personal. Everybody's going to latch onto that, especially if there's pictures involved. And then it's funny, when I started posting on LinkedIn, I was finding my sister, who's an IT consultant in Chicago, liking my posts on Saturday mornings or commenting on them. And finally I called her, I said, what the hell are you doing on LinkedIn on Saturday morning in Chicago? You're 35 years old and you have a fiance. Like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm on there all the time. What are you talking about? Like, these people are on there. I think to Deborah's point, because this is where professionals in these kinds of professions are. And apparently a lot of them are just pulling out their phone to see what's going on in their industry, whether it's if they're looking at jobs or just looking for content in general. LinkedIn is where we should be doing this stuff.
Anyone else? All right, well, Dan, thank you so much. What a great presentation.
Thank you.
I'm sure that there's a ton more that we could learn about this, and